Yesterday marked the centenary of the birth of the great composer Rudolf Friml. He was born in Prague on December 7th, 1879. And at the time of his death, at the age of 93, in November 1972, he'd become so much a part of musical history that many people just couldn't believe that he was still around. We're going to devote this middle hour of Sentimental Journey to the music of Rudolf Friml. As well as hearing many of his great works, you'll also hear the voice of his widow, Kay, a recording made this year especially for the centenary. Though the age of operetta, for which Friml is best remembered, is long past, his music, simple, melodic, and full of dramatic feeling, remains widely popular to this day.
Those voices, they sing as they go. What do those voices? Look over the mountains. Here come the mountains. We come. Somebody hide, somebody better hide on through the hill. Like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. We are after you, dead or alive. We are out to get you, dead or alive. And forget your soul. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after now. You dead or alive, and forget you so. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after. No.
Rudolf Friml's father was a baker whose hobby was music. He played the zither and the accordion. When Rudy showed his musical abilities at a very early age, it was obvious that he should have a proper musical education. So the family scraped together enough money to send him to the Prague Conservatory. He studied under several famous teachers, including Antonín Dvořák. In 1901, he toured the continent as a solo pianist and impressed audiences from Western Europe to Russia. That same year, he visited the United States for the first time, touring with his conservatory classmate and close friend, the violin virtuoso Jan Kubelík. 3 years later, he returned to the United States and decided to make it his home. In 1906, he published a song cycle called Songs of Zavis, but his big break was to come in 1912. The Broadway producer Arthur Hammerstein needed a replacement for the reigning operetta king Victor Herbert, whose bitter feud with the star soprano Emma Trentini left Hammerstein without a composer. Friml was recommended and immediately set to work. A month later, The Firefly was opened on Broadway, and so began his new career as a composer of operetta. The following year, he composed High Jinks and The Peasant Girl, which opened in New York in March 1915 with Emma Trentini in the leading role. Next came Katinka. It ran for 220 performances on Broadway and came to Australia during the war with Gladys Moncrief in the leading role. Here's Glad's famous recording of the song that was staged with a flock of pigeons, Rackety Coo.
She's very circumspect, au fait and quite timid, as every neighbor tells. Quiet and alone, is still as tall. She sits the whole day long. But when the sun shows day long, it's quite a different song. Every night I hear her sing, tweet, tweet, this little pigeon too. Then I hesitate until her mate says the rackety coo. Coo, then again she longs to tweet, 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 which means that she sings. Come on, now I say away. Oh, I wish that I need only say tweet, tweet, whenever I am blue, and hear them also rackety-coo, and know that then again she longs to tweet, 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 which means that she sings. Oh, dear, come on now, I say away. Oh, I wish that I need only say tweet, tweet, whenever I am blue, and hear
Other shows of the war and post-war period provided Friml with modest successes. There was You're in Love and Kitty Darlin in 1917, Gloriana the following year, then Tumble In and The Little Whopper in 1919. The Blue Kitten opened in New York in January 1922, and that was a moderate success there, running for 140 performances. It was brought to London in the mid-20s, and while there are a couple of nice songs in it, including Down Paradise Way and this one, sung here by Bobby Howes and Estelle Brody.
The country's all right for a pleasant weekend if the weather is sunny and bright.
But to live there for keeps with the cows and the sheep is a much overrated delight.
Each evening at 8 they put out every night and go off to bed very fast.
Except on a birthday or armistice night, they stay up until 1:15.
9 o'clock at night, twilight pale and dim.
Take the tomcat out on the tiles and then leave the rest to him.
If the hedgehog snores, don't get cross or frown.
He can sleep through the spring and not miss a thing, like a 12 o'clock gal in a 9 o'clock town. 9 o'clock at night, how the time does fly.
You take the goldfish out for a swim and rub him down quite dry.
Then you have a glass of milk, all your cares to drown.
Now the day's work is done, ain't we got fun?
Like a 12 o'clock girl in the 9 o'clock town.
The blaze of the sun may be good for the crop, but it blisters the back of the neck.
And it's true, I'm afraid that freckles don't aid in keeping that schoolgirl complex.
The artichokes choke and the cabbages tap, the brambles on Beverly friends.
While the bumblebees buzz, all the gooseberries gulls, and the dear little damsels all dance.
9 o'clock at night, all is silent deep.
The hens have said good night to the rooster and rocked their eggs to sleep.
Then you dim the glowworm's light, ere you settle down.
Oh, the pace is so fast, the snails always pass like a 12 o'clock girl in the 9 o'clock town. 9 o'clock at night, bedtime now is due.
Creep inside your 6 flannel nightie and put on bed socks blue.
Take out combs and pins, let your hair all down.
Oh, they think it improper to tingle or rock
a 12 o'clock girl in the 9 o'clock town.
Bobby Howes and Estelle Brody with a song from The Blue Kitten, 1922. But the vintage Friml days were still to come, and come they did with quite a bang in 1924. Arthur Hammerstein, who'd produced most of Friml's shows already, had the idea for a spectacular show set in the Canadian Rockies. Rudolf and Herbert Stoddart were asked to produce a score to a book by Oscar Hammerstein and Otto Harbach. The collaboration worked like magic, producing one of the most popular musicals of all time, still a staple diet of amateur companies all over the world.
Oh, sweet Rosemary, it's easy to see why your whole land to know you love you. You're gentle and kind, divinely designed, as graceful as the pines above you. There's an angel's breath beneath your sigh. There's a little devil in your eye. Oh, Rosemary, I love you. I'm always dreaming of you. No matter what I do, I can't forget you. Sometimes I wish that I had never met you. And yet if I should lose you, would mean my very life met you. Sometimes I wish that I had never met you. And yet if I should lose you, would mean my very life to me. Of all the queens that ever lived, I chose you. My rose, Marie.
To follow one success with a similar one takes some doing, but Friml did it the year after Rosemarie had opened. With The Vagabond King, he again added his own full-blooded romantic melodies. Dennis King played the lead in New York, and when it opened at London's Winter Garden Theatre in April 1927, it had Derek Oldham and Winnie Melville heading the cast. London stars of the production of Vagabond King, Derek Oldham and Winnie Melville. The other important female role in Vagabond King is Huguette, a little girl that is truly in love with the hero Francois Villon. Part was played in London in 1927 by Nora Blaney. Here she is with her song.
In a day,
Laura Blaney singing the Huguette Waltz from The Vagabond King. The last big Friml success was The Three Musketeers, which was based, of course, on the Alexandre Dumas romance. English-born actor Dennis King was again called upon to play the leading role. It's been said that he was to Friml what Tauber was to Lehar. The Three Musketeers opened on Broadway at the Lyric Theatre on the 13th of March 1928. Press notices were generally glowing. Dennis King won the praise of all the appraisers, with the Herald Tribune saluting him as a vivacious D'Artagnan, with the voice of a canary, the grace of a swallow, and the valor of an eagle.
With quite acclaim, the name and fame, and along its song with love and admiration, poets have extolled their doings more. And still one and all they should fall to this man of woman here. Placed beside the king, the musketeer, we are the musketeers, old Dashie musketeers, come the musketeers, from the right side by side, so and by. We've come for years and years, no folk can hide his fears, when faced the musketeers, he why to disappear, the maid, oh, pack it down, the line of foreman down. The gun for all and all for one, we stand before you, dynasty. Oh, Dashie musketeers, come the musketeers, come on, maid, stand before for one.
Kay Friml, Rudolph's Chinese-American widow, shared the final quarter-century of his long life, first as his secretary from the mid-40s, and then as his fourth wife from 1952 until his death in 1972. She's worked hard for the recognition of the centenary of his birth. Here is Kay Friml now with some memories of her husband.
This is Kay Friml. It is a pleasure for me to be with you for Rudolph's centennial. Rudolph began writing for musicals when he was contracted for 5 shows. In 1913, he composed Hijinks, a musical farce. It is about an unusual perfume. Once inhaled, it will make you hilarious, and you will sing Something Seems Tingling-a-ling.
little wit and more. Something seems sing-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, so queer, here in your ear, hear and live like some strange ringing of jing-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-os, and tang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-os. Why? You want to cry, you want to die, but all you do is laugh. You got the high cheese, that's why. The Roman god of jubilation, who was he? One moment was his name. What did he do? He was the god of exaltation. Who was she? A Wyrgonistic fame. The sun was hiding some sensation, where he caught his breath, soon died of chronic cancellation, just laughed himself to death. This all became this wondrous cloud, who breathes it feels its magic. Something seems ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, so queer, here in your ear, hear and live like some strange ringing of jing-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-os, and tang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-os. You want to cry, you want to die, but all you do is laugh. You got the high cheese, that's why.
Rudolf was born in Bohemia at the time of the Austrian-Hungarian reign of Emperor Franz Joseph. Antonín Dvořák was Rudolf's teacher at the conservatory in Prague. But he was already composing when he was a little boy, and this was the composition. Rudolf came to America in 1901 with Jan Kubelík, the violin virtuoso. They made a tour of 85 concerts. In one of their concerts, the music got lost. Jan said excitedly, "Where is the music? Where is the music?" Well, they had to play without the music. They played it so well together without the music that they played without it in every concert afterwards. In 1904, Rudolf played his B major concerto with Walter Damrosch conducting. He was presented as the greatest improvisator since Mozart, a title no one can surpass, and he lived up to it by improvising his piano part. Noci Marietta by the great Victor Herbert was the musical of Broadway with Emma Trentini from the Metropolitan Opera. Herbert himself conducted the closing performance. Trentini would not take the encore for the Italian street song. Herbert was so angry, he said, "I will never write another note for her." The Firefly story had already been written, and Arthur Hammerstein, the producer, was desperate for another composer. Schirmer, who was publishing Rudolph's piano compositions, knew Rudolph could write any kind of music and called him to meet Hammerstein and Trentini. Rudolph's faux pas was that he called her Madame Tetrazzini, thinking she was the other prima donna. After that, they never spoke to each other nor heard her glorious voice until the opening night of the Firefly.
In my gondola, love, let us glide over the drowsy blue lagoon, and float on the yellow tide where sleeps the dreaming moon. I'll fashion a crown you'll adore from the gold that lies shimmering there, and the silvery pearls on the dripping wall. I will set in your hair jewels and others so rare dear, as the splendor of your wondrous hair, dear, for I adore you, Giannina mia, more and more, I adore you, Giannina mia. My heart is from dear, my heart is from dear, there you shall
Rudolf and Otto Harbach, the lyricists, were collaborating on Rosemarie. The story takes place in the Canadian Rockies. Rudolf and Otto were taking a stroll in New York Central Park, and Otto said to Rudolf, "We need a song for Rosemarie, La Femme, and Jim Canyon, a call to each other that echoes across the mountain." Rudolf said jokingly, "I'm calling you." Otto looked at Rudolf quizzically for a moment and jotted down, "When I'm calling you dash oh dash oh dash oh dash oh. Otto was a quiet, a placid person. He did not say anything, but soon he had the words, and there was the song. A story of gallantry and romance inspired Rudolf. in writing the music for the Vagabond King from Justin Huntley McCarthy's great play, If I Were King. The song of the Vagabonds excited the audience so much on opening night that they were marching in the aisles of the Casino Theater.
Come on, he takes the Paris down, you lousy rabble of loading me. You rabble of loading me. King Louis to keep his from and save our city from Burgundy. Our city from Burgundy. You and I are good for nothing but to die. Let us die for liberty. Tons of toil and danger will you turn of the stranger and bow down to Burgundy. Tons of shame and sorrow will you cheer tomorrow for the crown of Burgundy. Onward, onward, against the foe. Forward, forward, the lily banners go. Sons of France around us, break the chains that bound us, and to hell to Burgundy. Sons of fire and danger, will you stand and break, and bow down to Burgundy. Sons of shame and sorrow, will you cheer tomorrow for the crown of Burgundy. And bow down to Burgundy. Sons of shame and sorrow, will you cheer tomorrow for the crown of Burgundy?
When Florence Ziegfeld was producing Alexander Dumas' The Three Musketeers for a musical, he asked Rudolf to audition the cast. Rudolf said, "Ah, but I must have girls with voices besides beautiful legs." Ziegfeld never wrote letters, always telegrams, sometimes many pages long. In one telegram to Rudolf it read, "My dear little Mozart, don't be temperamental. Get down to work and finish the music."
What do you wish, your highness? How may I serve you? What do you seek, I pray? The very bed the house provides is good enough for me. And who are you? Your vulgar curiosity I'll deign to satisfy. D'Artagnan I, from gallant Gascony, I came aflame with family pride, in search of honor to ride, with blood to shed. And now I vow, whatever may be, for fame is beckoning me, that path I tread, with sword and soul and heart and head, and right arm, Gascony bread, Gascony bread. Soul and heart and head, and right arm, Gascony bread, Gascony bread.
It was only a little melody called In Love, a title Rudolf gave to a composition he did not know what title to give it. Then it was published in the title of Chanson, meaning song in French. Then he was published again in the title of chansonnette, little song, as a foxtrot popularized by Paul Whiteman and his orchestra. Then it grew and became Donkey Serenade in the Firefly, the MGM movie version. Ellen Jones sings it now, riding along beside Jeanette MacDonald in her carriage.
Doesn't seem to care for the song in the air. So I'll sing to the muse, if you're sure she won't think that I am just a fool serenading on you. Amigo mio, does she not have a baby play? She listens carefully to each little tune you play.
Sì, la bella signorita.
Sì, sì, mi muchachito, she'd love to sing it too if only she knew the way. But there she may, in her voice there's a flaw, and all that the lady can say but so sweet like my Chiquita, you're the one for me. She may try to hide it, she cannot deny there's a light in her eye. Oh, the charm of her smile, so beguiled Don Diego, that he rode a mile for the charm of her smile. Amigo mio, is she listening to my song?
Yes, sir.
No, no, mi muchachito, how can you be so wrong?
Oh, la bella signorita.
This is la señorita, she'd love to sing it too if only she knew the way. Her face is a dream, like an angel I saw, and all that my darling can dream is not so big as a mosquito, but so sweet like my Chiquita, you're the one for me. Olé,
When Hollywood changed to widescreen movies, they remade Rosemary as the first musical in CinemaScope and The Vagabond King in this division. The tremendous heritage Rudolf left us, besides his classical compositions, were 33 musicals for the American theater. One that he liked very much was Kitty Darling, which he had to compose Irish music. He did it on all black keys. The producer was amazed that he had so much Irish in him. Rudolph's whole life was his music. Just leave him alone with his piano and he is happy. He only wanted the simplicity of life and the well-being for his fellow man. I know of his thoughts and his feelings because I was always with him. I leave you with Rudolf playing L'amour toujours l'amour, or Love Everlasting.
Rudolf Friml, playing L'amour, toujours l'amour. And before that, Kay Friml, his wife of 20 years, recalling something about the man and his music. Yesterday was the centenary of Friml's birth.